but he himself.
And from the 13th century, West Africa's most important seat of learning. In Sierra Leone, I've often heard stories of the Alphas, learned men from the north who travelled south to spread the word of Allah. What I'd never realised before is that many of them would have started out right here, in the deserts of Timbuktu. Even Africans are just discovering the story of Timbuktu and its lost libraries.
Probably people educated in Arabic and Islam know something about manuscript, but I don't think that the general public are aware about manuscripts.
And as Timbuktu's manuscripts are brought out of hiding, the conviction grows that what they have to tell us may forever rewrite Africa's history. This box looks like it's been buried. It's covered in dirt and things on the bottom. Why was it put under the ground?
Over the years, we have protected the manuscript from those who wanted to take them away. We have over 4,000 manuscripts in our collection.
What's incredible is that I'm in a small village in Mali, in Africa, on the edge of the Sahara Desert. It's about the last place on earth I'd expect to find manuscripts hundreds of years old. But this is where the search for the lost libraries of Timbuktu really begins.
This is a really interesting manuscript about astronomy. These are the astronomic drawings showing the position of all stars. I'm not an expert, but that is what they tell us.
They knew more about it then than I do now.
It shows you how to calculate position of the stars using these letters and numbers.
Next, he showed me a 16th century manuscript.
So this is a text of the prophet's sayings. What's more, there are all these notes in the margin. They can be about anything. But this one talks about hygiene. If you eat something unclean, you will always have problems and complications with your health.
Okay, so you must always wash your food. And here's a 500-year-old recipe for toothpaste.
You take some salt and some sugar and mix that together with some charcoal and brush it on your teeth every day, and your teeth will become white. And what's more, it will get rid of your bad breath.
End of the 10th century, when Timbuktu was founded, a large part of West Africa was under the rule of the Ghana Empire. It was West Africa's first superpower, and its leaders were early converts to Islam. I want to give
all the praises and the honor to Yahawah, BaHaSHam, YAHAWASHI, BaHaSHam, RAWCHAA, QADASH. Double honors to the elder apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Shalom also to you other fellow believers, you other brethren, you few sisters, and shalom to the elect. Anyway, I want to go on this video. I was doing some research. In fact, this is all inspired by Christianity, how we were forced conversion. You know, I was in one of the videos I did, I brought out an article how they said the Africans, well, the so-called Negroes, were and Native Americans, where they had a book and they had some type of order or law on how to force convert Negroes, so-called Negroes, to Christianity. And so you have to question, what were we before then? So as I was doing further research, you had a lot of these Pan-Africanisms, Pan-African people saying that we were Kemet, we had great history in Africa as black people, which we did, but you had different nations, right? You had Kemet, right, which you did, but you had Hebrews, Hebrew Israelites, which Kim just means hot. But you had the Hamitic people, you had the Hebrew Israelites, and as Hebrew Israelites we had dealings with other nations. We were known to go into Egypt even. So that's where the lost texts come into place, because you have a people today who want to set themselves up to be the chosen people of the Bible, and that way the biggest lies to put us is the fact of Hamites and sub-Saharan Africans, right, or Egyptians. You know, they'll give us that, but to be the people of the Bible, no, they don't want us to have that. That big lie is being uncovered, as Isaiah 47:1 says. So anyway, I want to read a few articles on, there's some historians or scholars who claim that there was no history. We had no history. I'll try to read it quick. It's a few of them. And I'll go into the scriptures on that as well. Hugh Trevor Roper, right? This guy, Trevor Roper, he was born, I don't know, he died in 2003. He was 89 years old. I think he was born in 1914, right? So Hugh Trevor Roper wrote in his book, it says, another aspect of Trevor Roper's outlook on history and on scholarly research, well, scholar just means student, studied, right, research that has inspired controversy, is his statement about the historical experiences of pre-literate societies following Voltaire's remarks on the fall of the Roman Empire at the hands of the barbarian tribes, right? He asserted that Africa had no history prior to European exploitation, right? Exploration, or exploitation, however you want to call it, and colonization. So, in other words, we were nothing but barbarians, you know, sick people that had no history. And he said he went around the world and studied certain things, but as we see, there's archaeological evidence of things being dug up and being proved who we were. And there was evidence of that because they were suppressing that evidence, the truth. He says, Africa is no historical part of the world. It has no movement or development to exhibit. Trevor Roper said there are only the history of Europeans in Africa. So we can clearly see, this is why I went into this, we can clearly see how during the Reformationists, you know, you had, I always like to bring up John Calvin and various others, popes and, you know, whatever you want to call it, who, Jesuits, priests that went not just in Africa, right, but different parts of Spain, which really, I did some more research and found out that they was bringing slaves, you know, started it some years before they came to Africa, even in Spain, some years back before the 1600s, going to the early 1500s, you know. I mean, this is just research. So, according to this guy, there was no history. We had no history, but we can see now they looked at us as uncivilized, right? Because, again, we was following Islam, we was following other practices and beliefs. Some of us was following being the Hebrews, right? But then we adopted other practices along with our native tongue and our belief, right? So these guys looked at it as when they came into power, they had an argument and fighting amongst one another on how to establish power, and they've done that. You know, you see America and you know other countries and these people of the same nations. I got to keep it clean, who are you know fighting for power on how to establish you know even the NWO, right? But the top elites has so-called that under control. He says there is no history except Europeans in Africa. The rest is darkness. This is where we get the Dark Ages. This is where we get the Byzantine Empire, meaning backwards, right? As a past unedifying gyration of barbarous tribes, okay, of picture-seek and irrelevant comers of the globe. So I'm not going to read all that. I'm just getting to the point. Let's go to Psalms 83:3, and then I'll get another article, right? It says, they have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent and confederate against thee. Right? So it also says the tabernacles of Edom and the Ishmaelites of Moab and the Hagarenes. Right? So the elites, the ones you see today, they set up, helped fund you had the sub-Saharan slave trade and you had the transatlantic slave trade, and they helped fund it through the so-called Arabs, right, through the slave trade. Now remember, we converted, a lot of us converted into so-called Islam. We were calling ourselves Moors, which means black, but we had so-called Arabic names, Arabic writings, and so forth. In fact, a lot of those so-called Arabs that you see, you know, if you get the real history and look at them, they look just like Negroes, man. Some of them look just like, which Arab means mixture, but they look, you know, a good portion. That's why a good portion of them so-called Arabs, a lot of them are Israelites. You know, I believe that. A lot of them are Israelites. Some of them, you know, you had some of us that left from the, you know, you had the southern and the northern tribes split, but then you had the southern tribe, but then you had some of the northern tribes that stayed back as well, right? So, and then you would have some of the southern tribes that came here as well, okay? So, I just want to get that point. So, we're also going to go into a little history. Now, you know, I'm not going to break down a whole Revelation 12, but you can, you know, check out videos. Brother's got many videos on that. But I just want to go into Revelation 12, and I'm going to start at, looks like about 14. I'm going to start at about 14, and it says, therefore rejoice. Well, let me go to 12. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe unto the inhabitants of the earth and the sea. For the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth he has but a short time. And it's really pushing that now. But when this man, whatever his name is, Hugh, whatever, he was a really hater of Jake, man. You know, he's really a hater of Jake. He wrote that book, I believe, in 1975. And that was part of the destruction, trying to forward the affliction of our people. But at that time, we had started waking up into who we are, so we could clearly see why this guy was set up. We could clearly see why he was set up, to try to cut us off from being a nation. You know? Let's go to 14. And it says, and the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might flee into the wilderness in her place. Right? So, during the siege, and I'll get that as well, during the siege of going back to 65 AD, really going up to 70 AD, when we fled, you know, into Africa. And, you know, we had some dealings in other places as well, right? So when we fled into Africa to flee Roman persecution, okay, under Vespasian, Titus, you know, we had to flee Roman persecution. And then ultimately they came and got us, right, and brought us here. It says, where she is nourished for a time, and time and a half a time for the face, from the face of the serpent. So we ultimately came here, and let's go to Jeremiah 8 and 11. I can just quote it. It says, they have healed the hurt of the daughter of my people slightly, saying, peace, peace, when there is no peace. You know, we went through that, all that BS through the, you know, through the civil rights era. So this man has always put atrocities in hell on our people, man. But then when we got here, we got a little comfortable. And then what happened is they set Eve up on top, gave her benefits, looked out for her, helped her out, you know, and that was part of the destruction of our people too. So this is a book out of Babylon Timbuktu, page 84. I didn't want to make this too long, but I just thought this was real interesting. Page 84, it says from Babylon to Timbuktu, page 84, it says, in the year 65 BC, the Roman armies under General Pompey captured Jerusalem, right? Oh, yeah, well, here we go. In 70 AD, General Vespasian and his son Titus put an end to the Jewish state with a great slaughter, right? And we go back in history with the Babylonians, you know, the Greeks, you know, you go back to the time of the Maccabees, you know, all these things that happened to us and the atrocities, all the way up to the 1500s, 1600s, brought us into captivity, and what they did to the Native Americans, man. Okay? It says, had many outrageous and atrocities were committed against the residue of the people. So you mean to tell me all this that has happened to us, our history being erased, the biblical curses of the Bible, right, has nothing to do with these so-called blacks, Negroes, and Native Americans? All this has happened, but we have nothing to do with it. There's no history, right? During the period from Pompey to Julius, it was estimated over 1 million Jews fled into Africa, fleeing Roman persecution and slavery. It says the slave markets were full of black Jewish or black Jews, right? It says, yep, saying that we was the real Jews. So, how did this happen? And even in the scriptures, it spoke of, you know, that's why when you go into the breakdowns, it'll go back from the past and then the future, then the past. And this is why a lot of the Christians, they don't understand the scriptures. You know, when you go into Matthew, I think the 24th, even YAHAWASHI said that we would have to flee into the mountains, you know. So let's go to, and when you go back to Roman persecution, let me see, back here it says the siege, right? Well, let's look up the word siege, and that's coming to Babylon, you know, which you see today. It says a military blockade, right? When you look at martial law, that means warlike, right? A military blockade of a city or fortified place to compel it to surrender, a persistent or serious attack, okay? Obsolete seat of distinction. To besiege military, right? So let me also go to this article here just to show you the sickness and hypocrisy of this man, okay? This man is sick. In his mindset, we can't be nothing. And this is also going to a lot of these Christians and how they're trying to promote us as being nothing but African aborigines that's in the desert and swinging from vines. Let me read this real quick. I think his man's name is, I'll try to read this quick. It's like a little article by George Hegel or something like that. It says Hegel's negotiation of Africa from history, civilization. Africa is not among Hegel's fourth culture or civilization. From Hegel's perspective, Africa is said to be unhistorical, undeveloped spirit, still involved in the conditions of mere nature, devoid of morality, religions, and political constitution. Hence, he holds that there is justification for Europe's enslavement and colonizations of Africans. For him, slavery causes the increase of human feelings among the Negroes. This is what we're talking about. These were nothing but Christians. These were nothing but Christians. George Hegel, this other nut job, they were nothing but Christians. That was their whole ideology, you know. Due to his thesis on Africa, Hegel's is rejected by many black scholars, right? Of course. But then you got these black scholars who sit up there and support Christianity, right? His work on Africa is said to glorify ancient Greece, while is ignominiously grotesquely degenerates Africans, whom he sees as the children in the forest, unaffected by the movement of history. This is, it goes on and on. It goes on and on. I'm not even going to read the rest of it. George Hagel's, I think that's his name. You can look him up or whatever. He's just, and nobody's doing videos on this guy. No Christian is coming up and saying, what's up with this guy, man? This goes back to our history. This goes back to us being cut off and following these wicked doctrines. This is why we all messed up. This is why our heritage has been taken. So for the people that suffered the worst on the planet, we have no history. And this is what they're saying. All the atrocities throughout time, each time this man will try to cover it up, right? This man in the spirit always trying to cover up to keep us oppressed. Look at your history. That's what they're doing now. They're trying to force us. They force convert you, and then keep you, right, in that deep, sick mind state. Well, that's why we're waking up and we're bringing out the truth. That's all I have on that. Shalom.